Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, well, we didn't get to finish barely any of the questions. So, but I took notes. So we'll, if you're up for it, we'll get you scheduled for next, next. And I put us back live, so don't say anything you don't want your mom to hear. Anyway,
Tattoos,
so yeah, you look like you're in the middle of not getting your. So yeah,
so that is going to be all the way around.
When are you gonna get it filled in? I know that's a investment as well.
It is.
I've got time and money.
Yeah, for sure. I go back December 18th right now, unless they can get me in sooner with somebody canceling or something, to get it worked on again for another day, another whole day. So we'll see. This one, he drew it on your freehand with like Sharpies, like kind of built up the design by hand. And that took like 2 or 3 hours or so. And then the inking and stuff all together that first day, it was like 9 hours I was there. So it's going to take a little while, but we're getting there.
Well, do you ever draw any of it on your own, or did you?
I filled it in the rest of the way in Photoshop one day. so
no, but like the original design.
Oh, so I did draw. I posted something on Instagram a couple weeks before I had my appointment coming up, and I was trying to sketch ideas for it and stuff. And it was the first time that I tried to draw this kind of like it's like a engraving style. Like it's kind of like what they do. And you see guys that like do engraving on like guns and coins and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it just really, really appealed to me. And I wanted to do something that wasn't my work. I tried my hand at it, and it wasn't exactly what I would want permanently on my skin. So I trusted a guy that I liked what he had done before, and then he ended up knocking it out of the park as far as the actual line work goes and stuff. So we'll see how the shading and everything goes. But yeah, I tried it once, and I'm glad that I just said, you know what, just do it.
There's somebody else. Yeah, somebody else is a professional, and they can go at it and really knock it out of the park.
Yes.
Well, good.
So, yeah.
Well, I think we have 3 huge viewers right now. Anyway, so I know 8 out of well, maybe we have 8 people. Well, we're back up, and maybe some people are listening up, but we're gonna wrap it up, and because we had a little technical difficulty, but I'm going to share a couple things. One thing that Ryan's working on, and this will be the last question because I would just want you to be able to talk about it. We when we were doing our test, I always like to ask what's next. And next time I'll still ask you what's next, and it'll probably be something new.
Sure.
But yeah, well, knowing anybody, hopefully, but and how far do you plan out your business strategy? And sometimes it's good to be flexible, but I also think it's good to have a strategy. But so tell us what's next, and how far do you plan things out?
Well, I usually plan things about as far as I can reach with my hand, because I'm fortunate enough to be at a position now where I don't really have to proactively seek out work.
Right.
I really just kind of pick and choose what's coming in, and usually it's more choosing everything than being picky at all. I need to work on that. But I think once I'm kind of out of the current cluster of projects that I'm working on now, one thing that I really have always cared about ever since getting into this and stuff, and having kids in school and things, is that the realization that they're not continuing to teach handwriting in school in a lot of cases anymore. Some schools are, probably more than I think, but like for instance, my son's school in Pittsburgh, where we were in 2nd grade, he learned write in cursive. And my daughter's in 2nd grade this year, and we're here in Texas now, and they are not teaching her handwriting, which is, I don't know, if somebody had told me they were going to stop requiring it when I was in school, I would have been thrilled, because I hated it in school, which is really ironic and hilarious now. But my son learned it, and it was funny because he has, to this day, terrible, like, I don't know what you call it, handwriting or regular
print.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Terrible print. But then when he started learning cursive, it turned out he was actually really good at it. It was just like the more specific form of writing those compared to regular print, made it so that he could do that better. And he writes all of his letters in print totally wrong, and like the wrong directions and stuff. And I tell him all the time, pull it down from the top. It's a lot easier to do that than pushing it up. And he doesn't want to hear any of it, and he still writes horribly because of it. But and my daughter's not learning it now, so of course I'm going to try and teach it to her. But it's just her. If they're stopping this everywhere, which I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, everything's going to typing now and stuff. And so I understand why most people want to lead away from that. But I think there's a lot to writing in cursive and developing handwriting skills that are, there's research that shows that it directly relates to, brain activity and everything. And, at the very fundamental level, being able to write in cursive offers you so much more in the way of being able to express yourself a little bit more in your writing and put some emotion into things, whether it be through the amount of slant that you're using, or how loopy your letters are,
right.
Or whatever. There's all different kinds of ways that you can write, and there's a lot of different things that you can convey in that. And I think that losing that as a fundamental piece of everybody's development growing up is a huge tragedy. And I've always felt that way ever since I kind of got into this and realized the power of it, and the very rewarding nature of being able to do this kind of stuff, and to even read it without being able to write it. You probably can't read cursive very good either. And so it's always been something that I've thought to myself, I'd really like to address that in some way, or to, try and pick up where the schools are ultimately going to leave off, and keeping it alive in kids especially, or in people in general. And it wasn't until really recently that I thought of an idea for how to address that. And ever since I have, it's been like kind of like the only thing on my mind. As soon as I think I said to you, as I find the light at the end of my current client work tunnel, I really want to attack this thing where I'm thinking of it as like kind of like a concept similar to a coloring book. When you have a coloring book, kids take the coloring book and they find something that appeals to them. They color it, and what do? They tear it out and they hang it on the fridge, or they hang it in their room. And I think that having something that would help you along the path to creating a cool piece of lettering that would be very kid focused as far as themes go would be a huge, it would be huge with kids, and it would be a fun way to make really cool signs and stuff for yourself that you could take out and have a piece of artwork, and at the same time build that muscle memory and learn how to write these things. And maybe on one side it could say what it says, because reading cursive can be tricky at first, and then the other page is the actual piece, and then they can kind of trace over a certain kind of guideline, and then at the end of the page they've got something that they can tear out and put on their door that says keep out, or something along those lines, very kid-focused themes. And then maybe eventually that turns into a more grown-up version of it, to where people can also learn, that are wanting to learn lettering professionally, or what have you, learn how to do the various swashes and flourishes and stuff that are usually the thing that really plagues people a lot. So I think that it's something that could start as a way to really address that issue of picking up where the schools are leaving off with cursive and keeping that alive, and then maybe turn into something that could be a useful tool for anybody. So it's really gotten me really hyped up about it, and I'm really excited about figuring out the best way to approach that and to present it, and finding some people to help me make that a reality. So look out for that. Hopefully before too terribly long, if I can kind of clear my weeds a little bit here and get out of the fog
right.
of everything that I've got going on now. So very excited about that as being my next thing.
And so I shared that link, and it's over there, and it's just an Instagram image, and it's it's showing like a really zoomed in, and there's a little dot for where you start and it's green, and then and you go through and you follow the dotted line, and then a little dot for where you pick up your pen, I guess, to the mark. And I when I was a kid, I used to think cursive was like a different language, so I definitely wanted to learn it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and when you're a kid, maybe it's not the most fun, but maybe in a form like this where it's like a coloring book, kids might not think that drawing is fun. I mean, I think they pretty much universally do, but they might not end up with anything that they're like super duper proud of, but a coloring book gives them a structure to kind of make something that they're really proud of. And whether it's really terribly creative or not, it's teaching them like how to color things and how illustrations are kind of structured and stuff. I mean, really, if you're looking at it that way, I mean, you can kind of learn a lot about character illustration and stuff from looking at coloring books. So there's a lot of subconscious learning going on there that I think could also apply to this. And this could be a way where if it's transparent enough on the paper and light enough to not show through their crayons or their markers or whatever, but still, be a helpful guide, then it could be really cool and end up giving them something to use like they would with coloring books. So
yeah. But a little bit older, like if you're, I mean, I usually think of like coloring, and I mean, I guess I probably colored through, I don't know, maybe I was a late bloomer, but I think of like this is like for older kids coloring, and I always give like I don't have any nieces or nephews, but my best friend has 2 little girls, and I always give them like crafty or coloring or whatever. And one of them's 12, I think, or 13. Well, she'll be 13 this year or next year, whatever, you know what I mean. But she loves that stuff even still because I have gone to that. And I told you about this earlier, the adult coloring books, not like creepy adult coloring books, but the coloring books that are more
and things like that.
Yeah. And you talked about that when you said lettering really became this thing for you. And I told you the meditative, right? And I think a lot of people are using that in the same way. And I think a lot of people would be interested in lettering, but they feel like, I have such bad handwriting. And I think that, to me, I would totally buy this for myself.
Yeah, sure. And I had a lot of, I have a close circle of friends that I, talk with frequently, and I showed them some of the early ideas for how to present that guide and those lines and stuff. And they were really helpful in pointing out a few things that were, kind of could be improved and stuff. And I think that the way that it's presented is going to be very important because yes, the typical age that they start teaching this stuff in schools that do still teach it is around that 2nd grade mark. And I think that that's a pretty good time where kids start to really be able to follow more specific instruction and follow a guide or something like that, where learning cursive starts to be a little more feasible than like with anybody younger. But I'm also very interested in finding a way to present this to where it could be something that somebody even younger could use, something where the design and the interface of it, I guess, for lack of better words, is that it's something that's very familiar and very obvious without being, so simple that it's like, okay, well, there's nothing special here, and finding that balance, I think is going to be huge with how successful this is going to be. So really interested in really kind of dialing in the very best way to present it. So
I wonder if your son is pressured to do better in cursive, because that's kind of what you do. And with his print, I think our brains aren't built, like we don't always develop at the set. That's what a 3rd grader does, or that's what a 1st grader or kindergarten. So he was just making the marks, and now he's learning when his brain can actually, or when he was in 2nd grade, he was learning that, and he could actually take it in like, oh, you do it like this. And, I think everybody learns at different stages. So I really think this is neat. And I think it's super sucky that schools aren't teaching cursive anymore.
Yeah. And I think that, I think a lot of it boils down to the fact that, I mean, I know that they kind of vaguely describe how you should form letters when printing, but it's nothing like with cursive where you're like, okay, this is the way that you do it. it's more focused on the shapes and recognition and stuff, and rather than how to actually draw those letters.
The path.
Right. And so, and with cursive, it being, kind of a little bit more structure to that, and something that's more taught alongside that, gives you like the best way to do it. And that's where he was able to, perform a lot better with that than other. Now at the school he's at now, they don't require it ever. So he's probably lost it all. But
maybe not.
It is. Yeah. Hopefully I can rekindle that a little bit. So.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. I'm going to share ways for people to connect with you right now. Sure. So they can always get to your website, and obviously you have the stuff on your contact form, but it's just ryanhamrick.com, and I'm going to put it over there in the chat, but I always like to say it too, so that people who aren't people who aren't seeing the chat, I guess. And then on Twitter,
while frozen, I went through a lot of this, so still seeing me. Then they heard my little monologue where I kind of talked freely. Oh,
I'm sorry. So I'm going to repeat it again.
It's good.
You weren't using the adult talking,
no,
right?
No, I was talking like an adult, but not adult language.
Okay. And then Twitter at Hamrick, and then but Instagram, is that Hamrick also? Is that something different?
It's still Hamrick pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, good to know. And then I think, I was that Instagram again. So check out Ryan if you don't, and also follow him on Dribble too. And just thank you so much, Ryan, for being here. And I'm sorry about the weather. We're having a tornado watch warning, which is the worst. The not worst
watch is when it's actually probably happening.
Been spotted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just in a warning like all day. So I'm not sure why. Yeah. But anyway, thank you. And I am planning on changing. It'll be a different format next time. So hopefully I'm going to test out a bunch over Christmas or December, and we'll be on the new platform starting 2016. So if you want to get contact with me, you can always contact me at diane@designrecharge.org, or you can follow me at Design Recharge pretty much everywhere else. And I will see you guys next week for our second to last of 2015. And it's Danielle Langdon, and she has a ton of energy, and she was a dancer before she was a designer, which I always, again, love when people come from different areas, because it still sounds like Ryan's doing app design, the format and what, you're doing a coloring book, but it's really the application of it. And I think that's great. So Danielle will be here next week, and then we will end the year with Rocky work with slap stickers. And so I'm real excited to have Rocky on as well. So next week, Danielle Langdon, and thank you, Ryan, so much for being flexible. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week.
Bye. Thanks, guys.